fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and I resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What people do in no money, what they at you in no at you. Covid money, miss away in the year little rat you. Use the youth, the money, waste my must have man to statue. Say me like a catch you, but they got enough, they got you. Take this skin from money, got and say that it's not you. One day the man above end up in my gut up. Too much eating at the kitchen, some fly by like a patu. My singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me.
300% please.
It burn me.
Garbage pile up the day.
It burn me.
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me.
I see corruption please.
It burn me.
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me.
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me.
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me.
And them a sell out the beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and I resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
For me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no make a bigger. The urgent the promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, the rapper, they down in our river. Member bowl only and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and they pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like thief when them sell.
It burn me.
Or they treat the market man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the cat man.
It burn me.
Or they treat the peanut man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the dirt man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat the son man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat policeman.
It burn me.
Or them a treat soldier man.
It burn me.
Or them a treat everyone.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't.
Good morning, and welcome to the Bone of Contention. Like and share the live, please. It is Sunday, the 26th of May. It is a bank holiday in the United Kingdom, or I think at least England and Wales. The weather is messy. It's not really cold outside, but it's rainy. And we are here this morning because I am rather confused, like a lot of us. Last night, apart from reading an article in the Gleaner by Hugh Wildman. Hugh Wildman was on Rattigan's program last night. And for me, the confusion broadens itself. In the whole legal spheres, law is about opinion of the law, one's opinion of the law. Thereby, different legal minds have different opinions of the law. And when one have different opinion of the law, then one would produce an argument that would support their opinion. One opinion can be in contradiction with what the Constitution really says and means. One opinion can speak to what the Constitution actually means. It is for that reason you have the adjudicators, the court, the judges who are more versed and experienced in the law that would provide clarity to the given confusion. Good morning, good morning. Me now work with no mouse, so me slower than ever this morning. So let me take time, struggle through to tell them a good morning. Good morning to my community of party and all my family members, to the people of the United Kingdom, London and the West Midlands. Good morning and good afternoon if you're in the United Kingdom. Hold on there. Debbie Jervis, good morning and welcome. Marcia Thomas, good morning. Natalia Freeman, Patricia Matthews, good morning. Good morning to Sunshine, Jason Kane, veteran, Yvonne Johnson, Norman Ferguson, good morning. Deaton T, Chuaguan, Winston Daly, JamaicanTV.com, Shauna Smith, Abinasa Cody, Miguel King, Georgette Brown, Donette, Isilda Williams, Rosemary Samuels, Jim Ashley, Raymond G, Georgia Dennis, Jamaican Foodie, Shernet Burnett, Sonia Johnson, who else is here? Alice Wallace, good morning. Carla Williams, Agency Driver 5, Monica Wills, Samora Tyrell. Good morning all. Thank you for joining us. I am very confused by, I think like many others, listening to Rattigan's show last night. Lennox Reed, Meckwith Talk, Jeffrey Tavares, good morning and welcome. Thank you for joining us. The contention spirals on. And I think where I'm confused with Mr. Wildman, good morning, Maxine Cummins, is the passport issue. I don't think we should be conflating passport and citizenship. I think that is creating a further contention. This is my opinion. This is not what the law says. Patricia Flynn. This is my opinion. Based on that, a passport is purely a travel document. It is completely different from citizenship. You can, I know for Britain, don't know for any other country, you can be entitled to the British citizenship, but is not entitled to the British passport. They are two different things and must not be conflated in this argument, is my opinion, because I think the issue, Mr. Wildman, of renewal of a passport is quite a contentious one based on the wording of the Constitution, because the Constitution speaks to citizenship, not passport. So I am very confused with Mr. Wildman's argument. A British subject was, a born British subject was zoomed in the contentious debate last night. Let me explore Mr. Wildman's argument for a bit based on someone born in Britain, which is a Commonwealth citizen. Sophie, Wellness Warrior, how are you? Say, for example, a person can get born in Britain, a Commonwealth citizen, and start having their passport from birth. As a child, your passport is valid for 5 years. So thereby, by the time you become 16, where you can apply independently in Britain for a passport, then that person would have had 3 passports already. By the time that person gets to 16 and is able in Britain to apply for their passport themselves, they would be barred in Mr. Human argument. That person would be eligible to apply for a passport before the age of 21, which they would be eligible to enter Jamaican politics. That, Ladybug, would have barred them because by the time they get to 16 or 18, they would be able to apply for a passport themselves. Now let's roll back a bit. There are various ways of becoming a citizen for a country. You become a citizen by virtue of birth, where in that you do not swear allegiance to the citizenship program. You merely just apply for your passport. With other ways to achieve the citizenship is by descent, in the way they are talking about Mark Golden. Other ways is by marriage or by settlement. So to be using the passport in Mr. Wiseman's argument, I think that's where the kerfuffle happens. The allegiance is to the citizenship, Mr. Wiseman, not to the passport. The passport is merely for travel. There are British citizens who have lived and died, Mr. Wiseman, and have never held a British passport. Because most people in Britain, Mr. Wiseman, really don't apply for a passport unless they wish to travel. That, Mr. Wiseman, doesn't mean they're not continuous British citizenship. So to have the break in Mr. Wiseman's argument, whenever you apply for the citizenship, your part for a renewal of your passport, you swore an allegiance. I think we're having the wrong debate in that sense. You're merely renewing your travel document. Your citizenship is once you have attained it by whichever means, whether by birth, by descent, by marriage, by the naturalization process. JC, how are you? That citizenship is continuous. So to be conflating a 10-year document, using the 10-year document, Mr. Wiseman, the passport, to say that every time you apply to renew your passport, you have pledged an allegiance. I don't follow that line of reasoning, Mr. Wiseman. Because we're merely dealing here, is a holder touch, with the issue of travel document. So in Mr. Wiseman's argument, am I understanding that you can keep your British citizenship in the case of Mark Golden if you don't apply for a passport? Because Mark Golden can still keep his British citizenship without applying for the British passport. All Mark Golden needs to do, if he hasn't traveled in and out of Britain for 2 years, he will just have to reapply. And that doesn't apply just to Mark Golden. It applies to everybody, whether you are a British passport holder or a British resident card holder. If you're outside of the country for more than 2 years, your British passport or your indefinite visa doesn't permit you to just roll up in Britain like that. You would have to apply for what is called resettlement. So Mr. Wildman's argument about the passport application here, I think, is creating more problem. Fabian Anderson, JP. Stick to the citizenship, not to the passport. You can have the citizenship and not apply for or renew your passport. That is where I become confused with Mr. Wildman's argument about once as an adult, you renew your passport, then you swear an allegiance yourself. In Mr. Wildman's argument, in context to the Constitution, Monica Hawthorne, then there would be a break in your eligibility as a Commonwealth citizen, as the Constitution prescribed, participated in Jamaica politics, because it does not speak, the Constitution, Makiba McLean, the Constitution does not speak to passport, Mr. Wildman. It speaks to citizenship. And this is where I become very, very confused. I become very confused with your line of reasoning, Mr. Wildman. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to you last night was struggling with the line of reasoning. If you leave it to the issue of the citizenship, I wouldn't be so confused. But when you conflate it with the passport, Beres White, that's where I'm lost, Mr. Wildman. Because the passport, the application, the reapplication of an expired passport, the Constitution does not speak to that. And if we were to interpret the Constitution on that, Mr. Wildman, the motion of the Constitution changes every 10 years. Or am me just confused? Because I am really confused, Shaman Ranger, by Mr. Wildman's argument. Honestly, I don't know how to clear up this in even my head, how Mr. Wildman has made this confusing. But the main important thing for me is the passport shouldn't be conflated with the citizenship. You don't renew citizenship every 10 years, Mr. Wildman. Once you become a citizen in a country, it's perpetual until you have violated that country law which says you're not entitled to the citizenship anymore. The precedent in Britain for that is the Shahima Begum case, where it was said she went via Turkey or wherever into Afghanistan, or one of them country Britain was fighting in. Was it Afghanistan or Iraq, or which one of them? And Britain sought to remove her citizenship rights. And it is a very contentious issue. Yes, one can renounce their citizenship. It's purely an administrative process. One can reapply for their citizenship, because especially people, the birth citizenship and thingy, citizenship by heritage. Now, if you're a person who receive it by marriage or naturalization, it may be a different context in the domestic spheres. But when it comes to by birth or heritage, it's a merely reapplication. But the only successful argument that I could pick out of Mr. Wildman's argument, the argument that the Jamaica Labour Party and its cahoots are throwing, Mr. Wildman's argument would widen the net to capture everybody within Parliament who would be under that violation that they claim Mark Golding is under. But the issue for me is, do not conflate passport and citizenship together. They are two different things for two different purposes. A passport is merely for the purpose of travel identification. A citizenship is a piece of paper that bears the state seal that gives you the country's nationality status. That, Mr. Wildman, is perpetual unless you violate it. You don't reapply to reaffirm your citizenship every 10 years. The reapplication of an expired passport, Mr. Wildman, it's a mere formality for everybody in every country. So thereby, Mr. Wildman, in context of section 40, subsection 2, the Constitution speaks to a very contentious issue, which would have, at the point of adulthood, a 10-year validity on what the Constitution spoke about in section 39, which is the quote-unquote qualifying section. But the issue of conflating the passport versus citizenship, Mr. Wildman, in section 40, subsection 2, is creating a massive contention for even a lot of other legal minds. Me can't work it out. Not if me I work it out based on the passport. I could understand the argument if it stays to the citizenship issue. But then if the Constitution speaks of Commonwealth citizen, and within the 12-month timeline given, in which domestic law, Mr. Wildman, in the Commonwealth, would one be able to take on full nationality of that country within 12 months? When the Constitution was written by the Foreign Office in Westminster, it was written as the Commonwealth as a group of family. To be using Prince Charles as the head of the Commonwealth and the head of the country where it matters, to see Mark Golding's passport as a separate allegiance to Britain and King Charles, as his standing in Parliament as a separate allegiance, how then, Mr. Wildman, are you not seeing Andrew's allegiance as Prime Minister to the crown, King Charles, and Andrew's allegiance to King Charles, the head of the crown, the head of Jamaica, the Privy Council oath? I don't think Mr. Wildman is looking at it quite clear here. As I said, legal opinion is what it is. One's opinion of the law. Thereby, different people, Wayne Evans, how are you? Have different opinion of the law. Rena, how are you? Have I missed anyone? Blue Wave, Andrea. But me answer to God, me confused. Me no know how to explain it to Ono other than saying the Carlin Richards, how are you? Conflating a renewal of a passport, using the renewal of a passport as the disqualifier is not the right way for me. If you're using the citizenship as the disqualifier, I can accept that argument, Patrick Godfrey. I can accept that argument if you're using the citizenship as the disqualifier. But what my understanding is Mr. Wildman is using as the disqualifier is once you become adult and you apply to renew your expired passport, you automatically become disqualified. I don't buy that argument. The Constitution spoke about citizenship, not passport holder. And this is where I'm confused. Honestly, my people, I am confused. He was so confused and opinionated on the subject that he was out of his league. I don't know how to clear it up to you because the Constitution speaks of a Commonwealth citizen. So the Constitution gave the 12-month prescription as long as you live in Jamaica for the 12 months, Joanne. So it means, say, that person under the Commonwealth family citizenship wouldn't have to go through a long immigration process and wouldn't have to change no passport to have that eligibility. Why then, when that passport that they entered with become expired and they have to apply for a new passport with that perpetual citizenship, they become barred? I cannot follow that line of reasoning, Elaine Rowland. That line of reasoning really have me confused, Pauline Dixon. I'm confused. I don't know how to explain it to you all. But I know the conflating the passport and the passport administrative process of renewing a passport and a perpetual citizenship, whether you have it by virtue of birth, which all you have to do is apply for a passport with your birth certificate. The allegiance swearing, Mr. Wildman, it's to do with us who are born outside of Britain and has attained it through marriage or naturalization. Or, Mr. Wildman, a person who's born in Britain to parents who did not have their full legal status then, but have the British birth certificate and have to do the naturalization process to attain the British nationality. Mr. Wildman, don't confuse nationality and passport holding. And that confuse. Sean, how are you? Sean, don't ask me. Ask Mr. Wildman. And that's how the confusion coming. The expiration and renewal of a passport, Mr. Wildman. If the Constitution does not speak to that, Mr. Wildman, then you shouldn't bring that legal opinion in to confuse a whole nation. That is my argument. Me confused, Mr. Wildman. Confused. More than that come here, so that come plus tax are going around here, so. I am confused. Well, this is why I'm saying, Rosemary. Mr. Wildman is saying King Charles is a separate king in each of the Commonwealth country. Let me clear up something. When you hear them say the king exercise power in this, nothing don't go so. In the constitutional setup of Britain, Mavis Forbes, you have what is called residual powers. Power left over to the crown that Parliament didn't take away from them. It is called residual power. That residual power is exercised under what is called royal prerogative. The royal prerogative is not exercised by the royal household. The royal prerogative is exercised, G-Money, by the government on behalf of the royal. Such as when you hear them say, the king signed the legislation. It's not actually that. It is how it is used to be before Parliament took power from the household. It's merely a formality. There's a body within Parliament that when I explain to you the different boards within the Privy Council, the legislative board, the royal assent stamp don't really have to do anything with the king. The government exercises that power on behalf of the crown. So those ceremonial power that we actually think King Charles exercise are exercised by the government on Charles's behalf. I saw the setup go, but them use it for confusing a constitutional law more time, like it's the king actually exercising this duty. No, there are several boards under the Privy Council which exercises the duty on behalf of the crown. So Mr. Wildman's argument is that, no, it's okay for Andrew because King Charles is the head of Jamaica, and a separate King Charles is the head of the Privy Council. You understand? A separate King Charles is the head of Britain. That line of argument, I don't follow either. I didn't get that teaching in constitutional law because the royal prerogative powers is not exercised independently by King Charles in any country. It's exercised by a board or by the government, which exercises the power of the royal prerogative. Hot off the press. Good morning and welcome. How are you? First time seeing you in global television. Good morning. So me confused, good, confused about Mr. Wildman's argument. I can baffle my way through it, but giving you a proper explanation, I cannot, because the conflating of the passport, which is a travel document, and the conflating of a citizenship, which is a perpetual privilege, because it's not a right, it's a privilege. Even people who are born in this country can be denied the British passport. So when Mr. Wildman confused the thing with British passport holding, Enrique Nemard, it is where the confusion gets broader. When Mr. Wildman narrow it down to the renewal of passport to fall under section 40, subsection 2 as one of the disqualifier. I don't follow that line of reasoning because the passport did not speak to the Constitution, Mr. Wildman, did not speak to passport holding. It spoke to Commonwealth citizenship, Mr. Wildman, which is, for me, different thing. A passport, Mr. Wildman, is purely for the purpose of an identificational document, mainly for the purpose of traveling. You don't need a passport to be a citizen, Mr. Wildman. So me not understand. I swear to God, I'm confused. How Mr. Wildman just come out and want to force it down with truth that that is how the Constitution ought to be interpreted. Okay, let me move on to the Prime Minister. Now that the issue Prime Minister has become so broadly contentious, at what point, Andy Brand, is the Prime Minister going to see that he has failed? And by saying that, such a contentious issue in a constitutional review, an issue like this ought to be an issue where there are broad debate and consensus going on as how in our new constitution we move ahead with this piece of contentious issue written for us by the British Foreign Office. To walk away, though, Prime Minister, and throw in tantrum, petulancy, catfight, whimsical behavior, rather than sit down and having consensus across the country, how we go forward and what turned out to be a major confusion, Carl Roberts, in our constitution. What the Prime Minister chose to do? Engage in our big girls' blows. Show up your skirt and make everybody see your white bingo bag. Fight. And then they want us to believe that they have undivided loyalty. If you have undivided loyalty to the country, Prime Minister, then what you would want to do is to put this constitution, this contention to bed. This is what a constitutional review process is for, Prime Minister. Therefore, if you cannot get back on track with the review, have consensus with the opposition, broader Jamaica, the diaspora, the different cultural fractions of the country, Mr. Prime Minister, you're failing. You are failing. The purpose of the review is to get our constitutional right, to serve us right. So rather than having this debate, why you throw your skirt over your head, Prime Minister, and a run around with mystery? It turns out, if Mr. Wildman's argument is correct, which I'm not convinced, if Mr. Wildman's argument is correct, it turned out that the whole of us across the country did not understand what Section 40 of the Constitution means. If we are to work with Mr. Wildman's argument, an argument which I say I cannot follow, then all of us would be working on that Westminster document without a proper understanding of it. Thereby, Prime Minister, it is the perfect time for us as a people, as a country, as a nation, to sit down and get it right. Get something right that we we don't understand it right now. So therefore, Mr. Wildman can go on a wild goose chase and make up anything tell with. It's so expertise and authorities go in academia. We haven't had a proper ruling on the issue, even though he's citing the Australian case. I don't have time to read or study it. Hold on, the blue. I'm going to read section 39 first to give understanding to section 40. So section 39, qualification for membership of Senate and the House of Representatives, subject to the provision of section 40. In law, where you see it says subject to, you have to read 39 with the understanding of 40 together. If there is a contention in 39, 40 is superior. That's how law is to be read. Smooth Beckford. So, subject to the provisions of section 40 of this Constitution, any person who, at the date of his appointment or nomination for election, is a Commonwealth citizen of the age of 21 years or upwards, and has been ordinarily resident in Jamaica for the immediate preceding 12 months, shall be qualified to be appointed as a senator or elected as a member of the House of Representatives, and no other person shall be so qualified. That means anyone within the Commonwealth, within the stipulation of a Commonwealth citizen, living in Jamaica for 12 months is qualified. No one outside the Commonwealth citizenship. That's what my understanding of that means. So that is section 39. Section 40. This is the disqualification for membership of Senate and House of Representatives. No one shall be qualified for election as a member of the House of Representatives who is a member, A, is a member of the Senate, B, is disqualified for election by any law for the time being in force in Jamaica by reason of his holding or action in any office or function of which involve any responsibility for or in connection with conduct by any election or responsible for the compilation of review of the electoral register. That is section 40, subsection 1, subparagraph A. The contention that Mr. Wildman creates is in subsection 2 of section 40, which says no one shall be qualified to be appointed to the Senate or elected to the House of Representatives who is by virtue of his own act under any acknowledgement or allegiance, obedience, or adherence to foreign state, to foreign power or state. This is where Mr. Wildman, this is subsection 2, subparagraph B, subparagraph A, rather. This is where Mr. Wildman is bringing in the renewal of a passport. Not the seeking of citizenship, the renewal of a passport. If he said the seeking of citizenship, I could have struggled through to understand that. But the renewal of a passport for a citizenship already hold, which the Constitution spoke about, Janet Riley. That's what me confused. Hey, nothing me not confused this morning. Let me read over section 2 again. No one shall be qualified to be appointed to the Senate or elected to the member of as member of representative of the House of Representatives, who is by virtue of his own act, that is subparagraph A, under any acknowledgement or allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state. Subparagraph B says, holds or is acting in any public office or the office of judicial of judges of the Supreme Court or judges of the appeal court, or save as is otherwise provided by Parliament, is a member of the defense force. Subsection 2 carries up to subparagraph B, up to subparagraph G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Some of about 6, so much is something there, 6, 7 of them. The issue though, Mr. Wildman stop at section 40, subsection 2, subparagraph A. That is where Mr. Wildman stopped with his contention. Let me quickly see if I can pull it up. Now work with my mouse, so I'm very slow. Let me see if I can pull the document up and share it. Sometime when we try share screen from this computer, it knocked me out. But let me try and bring this bit up. Where Mr. Wildman is picking out subparagraph A of section 2 of section 40 and creating a contention over a passport, Mr. Wildman, which the Constitution did not speak about, is the confusion here. You do not renew citizenship every 10 years, Mr. Wildman. So you do not have to pledge allegiance every 10 years. Once you hold that citizenship, it's a perpetual holding, Mr. Wildman, until you violate it. So to bring in the administrative renewal of a passport, which any Commonwealth citizen, Mr. Wildman, is subjected to in their respective country, then that would have break up the whole Commonwealth citizenship if once you become adult and renew your passport, you're barred from what the Constitution prescribed as citizenship. It confused me. God no, me not telling no lie. The issue of passport and citizenship conflated together. Hold on there. Hold on. Where am I? That conflating them two things together, for me, create a massive confusion where have everybody confused about how this thing. Have we been working on a document for how much years with none of our greatest legal scholars in the country, Mr. Wildman, never understand what the country I work with? Me don't know. We just born fools, so. Let me try. Me don't know. You know, the my touch screen computer where I can see if I know how to zoom on this. I think I learn 150. Okay, let me see. Hold on there. I want to show now what Mr. Wildman problem be. Me no see the Constitution talk about no passport. So me don't agree with Mr. Wildman passport argument because you don't review citizenship, Mr. Wildman come back over at again or something, come answer the question. So that is what you're seeing in front of you here, is what is called the qualification section. G Money 101. Me, I am confused. Me not tell you no lie. Me can't tell you no any better than me I tell you no this morning, because it's just confusion, really. So that is the qualification section. We speak about being a Commonwealth citizen in subparagraph A, and subparagraph B, that you're living in the country 12 months before that appointment or nomination. You understand? Then we go to Mr. Wyman contention now, which is section 40. Subsection 1, no one shall be qualified as a member of the House of Representatives if they're a member of the Senate. But move on, because him now use subsection 1, subparagraph A or B as a contention. His contention resides here in subsection 2, subparagraph 1, and subparagraph A. That is Mr. Wildman's contention. You know how to highlight bias, no? Yes. Right. That is Mr. Wildman's contention. Of the entire document, Mr. Wildman take out this bit, lump it, Mr. Wildman, with the British passport, and then Mr. Wildman created a massive confusion for all of us. Even confusion that we didn't know exists, Mr. Wildman managed to pull out of the bag. Because if Andrew is separate here, and if Andrew is separate here, and if Andrew is 54 different persons plus the Privy Council, Andrew, Mr. Wildman, Almighty God, all of them we can't count. Now I'm going to make it. Count on me can't count. Past 10 and about 50 odd. No, sir. Save the countries who didn't have Charles as their head of state. But it is also to be said, and all 50 odd members of the Commonwealth have Charles as their head of state, because those who have went on the independent, confusing blunder with their ceremonial president do nothing. President sit down and wait for dead and let him inheritance give him rich picnic them, is the type of presidency in some of the Commonwealth country, save for Nigeria and so on, which have an executive presidency. So Mr. Wildman just pick up this here one sentence, one paragraph. Mr. Wildman has taken a subparagraph of the Constitution. Speak about passport. Of course, within law, then there are facts that you want to tie with your law to create your argument. Thereby, in my view, because Mr. Wildman cannot speak about Mark Golden attain his citizenship himself, then what Mr. Wildman does is lean over to the passport, which every one of us have to reapply for our passport every 10 years. I don't think that's the argument that we should be having in public, Mr. Wildman, about a passport renewal in context to subsection 2 of section 40 of the Constitution. I think it's an entirely wrong approach to be conflating passport and citizenship Mr. Wildman. And that's why so much people are so confused. Because I was watching the American TV. How are you? I was watching the comments last night. You know? And I at one point I wanted to call to ask Mr. Wildman, what's the difference between a passport and a citizenship? Does one ever have to renew their citizenship? Then if Mark Golden's parents gave him citizenship as a child, how are you going to be blaming the man about an administrative thing as a passport that in any country you renew every 10 years? Mr. Wildman is not the argument to be having in relation to subsection B. Is it B? Let me look over here. So come can't see on the little screen. Subsection A, subparagraph A rather, of subsection 2. It is a hell of a confusion. And you need to clear that up. The Constitution did not speak about passport. It spoke about citizenship. Citizenship is not passport. Passport is not citizenship. I don't understand it. A lot of people, Mr. Wildman, have British citizenship and don't have British passport. Me don't know of people pledging allegiance every 10 years when they renew them passport, Mr. Wildman. I don't understand this argument. The passport drafted in as an allegiance. Nerese One Love, how are you? Oliver Rodney. The passport drafted in to make the argument against Mark Golden, but it's refusing, though, Mr. Wildman, to use the same argument to make a case against Andrew Privy Council membership. Because if Prince Charles is a different Prince Charles in Britain, Mr. Wildman, and a different Prince Charles in the United Kingdom, Mr. Wildman, and a different Prince Charles at the head of the Privy Council, Mr. Wildman, then under your very own argument here, adherence, obedience, does the Privy Council oath, would the Privy Council oath, Mr. Wildman, not be seen as obedience or adherence? Have you ever read the Privy Council oath, Mr. Wildman? But because Prince Charles take on so much different personality, because me did know say, me have a 10 of me. But it coming like Prince Charles get more on me now, me have to go step up my game. And draw out more personality. Because I want a whole heap of Prince Charles. Prince Charles, in Mr. Wildman argument, mean whichever country you're in. That's the Prince Charles we're referring. Me confused how one Elizabeth me did know about, and all of a sudden, we have a dozen or more Prince Charles. I, for this time, Mr. Wildman, cannot follow your argument. I just cannot. Me know me done see no, Mr. Wildman. Remember me take copy out a Rye book. Remember me lean over and peep in a Rye book. So me no must always get it right. And me no must always understand it and me make it clear. Janet John Bailey to the whole army. I do not understand it this morning. I cannot follow it. What I can explain to you is my understanding of what is there. But as to how Mr. Wildman managed to lift up a passport, conjugality for how you do. As to how Mr. Wildman managed to lift up a passport and drop it into and on top of citizenship is my confusion this morning. And I am begging Mr. Wildman, come clear up the argument. Go over back to Mr. Rattigan or over Jeffrey Tavares or somewhere, Mr. Rattigan, because me can't conduct such a galang in, I wouldn't know if I ask you the way how me confused. So in other way how media and newspaper do it, the same medium, Mr. Wildman, that you come confused, we go back to the Gleaner and go back over Rattigan and help you to understand where the Constitution speaks of a passport and on what basis would you be tying, Mr. Wildman, the passport to the citizenship? Because of this, me become dunce. We need help, Mr. Wildman. You can't just throw cat amongst pigeon and sit a hyena that they are wait for blood and come walk with. Sandra Ellis, how you do? There is awfully something confusing going on. I cannot follow Mr. Wildman's line of argument. It confused me. Take out the passport out of it, sir, and let us develop on the citizenship argument. The Constitutional Review Committee Prime Minister, they say they are willing, Prime Minister, to speak and to see this confusing issue through. They will hear an argument and they're open to reviewing the citizenship requirement for MP. It is the time, Prime Minister, put down the big girls' blows behavior, the whimsical approach, Prime Minister Wimpinella, the catfighting approach, Prime Minister, the dunce back a zinc fence approach to the Constitution, Prime Minister. Put that down. Get to Vale Royal. Sit down with Mark Golden. The issue of MPs and senator appointment and nomination was given to us by the British Foreign Office. Are we going to keep our election and parliamentary activity broaden into what Westminster gave us that permit anybody of the Commonwealth cahoots to sit in our parliament? It didn't speak specifically to Jamaicans. Do we want our parliament or parliamentary activity to be subjected to Jamaicans by birth only? Do we want to keep the Commonwealth citizenship only? Or do we want to broaden the thing to the wider diaspora? Is the conversation that we should be having at the moment. The final court are the conversations we should, the Prime Minister and the leader of the opposition should be having at Vale Royal at the moment. What is in the Prime Minister's way? Why the Prime Minister does not want to have those debates, but want to engage in a catfight that Mr. Wildman narrative has broadened it. To catch everybody in a parliament in the net with underholdness when underholdness came out tactically, because he knows that there are a lot of people with dual passports sitting on the Jamaica Labour Party side, and he doesn't have one. He wants to keep it to just the leader of the opposition and the government. Hypocritically. But Mr. Wildman's argument, underholdness, would broaden the net to capture everybody within that violation, which you're all blaming Mark Golden for. Save for that though, Mr. Wildman. The rest of it is a total confusion for me and a lot of other people. I've dealt with this topic a few times on this program. Remember, I told you on Friday, the World Health Organization and their World Health Assembly body was going to meet about ratifying the new pandemic treaty that will have far-reaching consequences for humanity, Loris Beckford, in my view. We have been spared sometime. I don't know how much, because there are a few countries who have kind of pushed back and is not agreeing with the new rules on how we treat pandemics going forward. So they have been negotiating this thing for 2 years. They have not come to an agreement as we expected would have happened in their meeting, which took place on the 24th. But the Geneva the conversation surrounding the World Health Organization at Geneva continues. I think these brouhaha normally goes on until further in the summer, till about next month, so on. They'll be having all sorts of different talk in those different organizations to do with what them are plan for carry go when it comes to pandemic and what the other one name? What the other new rules? Health and climate change. So we've been spared some time. The negotiation still the negotiation still ongoing. As soon as other crooked government come on board and enough people ratify this thing, we're going to have to. You stay there, play sick this morning. We're going to have to keep Salman. Good morning. We're going to have to do something there. But this provides us time, my people, to push back on our leaders and ask them more questions with regard to this new pandemic treaty. Don't make we go buck up in a one of that confusion, like the constitutional wrangle dangle here, where when we think it did confusing, Mr. Wildman just jump out a bush pan with and say, I am supreme when it comes to constitutional law. And all of you but me, is looking at the thing the wrong way. That's not what the Constitution said. The Constitution says as soon as you renew your passport, you are disqualified. Where do Mr. Wildman did the Constitution spoke of a passport? I think I'm confused, you know. I don't know how to pass this, so I'm not telling no lie. Veronica Gale, how are you? Me can't pass this, and I think Mr. Rattigan, Pedro, Jamat, how are you? I think Mr. Rattigan need to bring Mr. Wildman back next week and develop on a lot of questions that needed to be explored. I am tempted, Blue Wave, because when the question was put to him about Andrew's allegiance to Jamaica and Andrew's allegiance to the Privy Council as Prince Charles the head of a foreign entity, he danced out of that and tell us that Prince Charles is Prince Charles here under this capacity, and Prince Charles is Prince Charles there under that capacity. So, we don't know. Me confused. I do see some. Me don't know if a political playing or I don't know, but something don't right. I'm leaning towards playing politics to a point. But when you look at the broader argument, though, his argument would, on the other hand, the people them on the Labour bench where Andrew have tried to protect with the dual pass, the double passport, George Eagle Eye Wagwan. Him would draw those people into the net also. So let's see how the Jamaica Labour Party and those people over there progress on Mr. Wildman's argument, if they're only going to still limit Mr. Wildman's argument to Mark Golden only, or it's a broad argument across our legislature. So let's see how them develop that. But that doesn't mean I'm confused. Mr. Wildman, can't tell we how passport get in there. A citizenship. A citizenship and the Constitution they are fight. And all of a sudden now, passport him turn up, gonna come in there and make it totally different. Everybody now get sidetracked over how could the Constitution be written to bar a Commonwealth citizen who they have qualified just because the Commonwealth citizen renewed their expired passport. Mr. Wildman, don't make me mad, sir. It don't make sense that the Section 39 qualifies a Commonwealth citizen, but turn around in the following section and disqualify you if you're renewing your passport. So Mr. Wildman's argument is saying to us that if you enter with your Commonwealth British citizenship, you have to, if you want to continue when that passport expires, change your Commonwealth citizenship to a Jamaica Commonwealth rather than the British Commonwealth. Tell me if the confusion don't get deeper, or am I just done and lab out? At the passport that Mr. Wildman brought into the argument muddy the water. So therefore, we need this conversation if our constitutional review is going forward. We need clarity and consensus on it. Otherwise, we abolish the whole thing. We abolish this whole and stay with the dunce document and work with it dunce, because even Labour, if we are following Mr. Wildman's argument, even the dunce Labour them never understand how dunce, the dunce British them right it, and the don't things that the British them not dunce too. When the Foreign Office was writing this constitution, Britain write the constitution so in Picnic them can sit in our parliament. If you don't want it so, you're going to have to change it under a constitutional review. And the Constitution now go allow you, like how me hear some mad dog Karen talk about black this and black that. Look what Jamaica gone down to. Racism, birtherism, and constitutional waffleism. And that's how we do. In the height, though, of what is called a constitutional review, one that was stalled at the first hurdle because the government don't want to engage in a negotiation. The government don't want to budge Major Babs on issue that it holds on to. So make Andrew Holness never just turn Jamaica in a dictatorship, because this was where this constitution would have aimed to carry us if this prime minister is refusing to have consensus. If the prime minister is refusing to have consensus, You shouldn't just turn the country into authoritarianism, demand the military to hold power over we and give you power, sir. But this approach, where you just take it and mess it up, so you don't want to have a debate over it. You don't want to have consensus on it. But let me take a break and play this little snippet for you.
The importances of the indigenous people of Jamaica, the ones whose ancestors fought us British for the land of Jamaica. This means each and every born Jamaicans are entitled to a piece of land as repatriation.
In Canada recently, my wife and I were deeply touched to meet many of those engaged in the ongoing process of reconciliation. Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples reflecting honestly and openly on one of the darkest aspects of history. As challenging as that conversation can be, people across Canada are approaching it with courage and unwavering commitment.
Why did you think he said what he said? Colonies that he's talking about.
Maroon Chief Richard Curry enlightened Jamaicans on the importance of the indigenous Maroon peoples of Jamaica, now that Jamaica will eventually be freed from the UK monarch, and what this should truly means to every Jamaicans and also their entitlement to land from the government, whether it SJLP or PNP, any party in power.
But what he said in that speech, it was that it's important, right, that conversations be had, right, to rectify long-standing issues between state parties and the indigenous communities, right? Why is that important? It's important because there are agreements that are there that must be honored. The crown wants us to pull away. The crown wants us to become a republic. We want to become a republic. But how can we become a republic that says, out of many, one people? When from this one people there are so many that this government fails to recognize. They fail to acknowledge. And you want to unify the people on this land? You want to bring about peace and harmony on this land? Why do you think there's so much crime? Nobody has land. Nobody's settled. Nobody can plan. Generational wealth stop a one place up here, so. One set of people not to see generation wealth. Why are the police, doctors, lawyers, soldiers, why aren't there agreements in place for crown lands to put lands into the possession of these people?
Brenda, how are you? Jamaican, how are you? Another thing I want to pick you up on, Mr. Wildman. When you're referring to our constitution, you use the word founding father, Mr. Wildman. It's a misguided speech, Mr. Wildman. You're using an American term, Mr. Wildman, that does not speak to our constitution. When you speak about founding father in the constitutional term, Mr. Wildman, you are speaking about those who, after the revolution, those were the major player in the constitutional agreement, argument across the country. Those are the people you refer to as the founding father. Those who negotiated the Constitution, writes the Constitution on behalf of the people after a revolution, Mr. Wildman. Vernon Shaw. Our Constitution, Mr. Wildman, and if you read the judgments that coming out of the Jamaican courts, Mr. Wildman, are farmers, the formers of our Constitution, those who form our Constitution in the Foreign Office of Westminster, the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in Westminster, Mr. Wildman, our Constitution was not founded. We did not sit down together, Mr. Wildman, and come up with this Constitution after our revolution. So do not term our Constitution as the founding fathers, or no, not that. Our Constitution is referred to as the formers, those who form our Constitution, not those who founding father. You can refer to the American, the French Constitution, and so on, but not the Jamaican Constitution. Minnie, how are you? The proper reference, Mr. Wildman, is former, those who form our Constitution and gave it to us. It was never found, Mr. Wildman. So just like how you mix up founder and former, so you mix up passporter and citizenship. Separate the thing, them, sir. Separate the things. Don't confuse the people, them. We're confused enough with a hope a big word already. And if we come with a big, pretty phrase. If you come with a big, pretty phrase, even worse, the automatic dunce like me. Remember, me never got to school, sir. Remember, under green tree, they sit down and learn. Remember, the teacher never mark my book, sir. Don't confuse the people. What you have done, Mr. Wildman, in bringing in this passport argument, what you have done is create further confusion. Me I wait to see how the Labour them are going to tackle that part, yeah, you know. Me I wait to see how the Labour them is going to tackle Mr. Wildman argument. If they're going to do like the religious people them, we pick out the part of the Bible, we support their argument and play blind, deaf and dumb to the other bit, we call them out. So me and wait to see how them are going to play the game. Because if them think to say, Mr. Wildman don't play them deeper into this game, me confused. Me not ask anybody if me confused, you know. Me not have to ask anybody if me confused. Me know when me confused. What I want to see is how this debate is going to go forward. If we're going to put this issue to bed in our constitutional review, if we're going to get back and track, Shauna Simmet, how you do? If we're going to get back and track with our constitutional review, or it just done this so when the government buck up on a hurdle. What this would be showing, though, it's a government that has no willpower. It's a government that is not prepared to do everything in order to make sure the business, the people's business that they were elected to do, take an oath to do, is done. The Prime Minister don't seem to be interested in a negotiation as to how we deal with this issue. Are we going to continue with this contention where, if we're to go by Mr. Wildman's argument, a whole of people would have to either dash up, whole of people in the Jamaica Labour Party would either have to dash up citizenship, and let's not talk about passport because this is a while man I use confused. A lot of people would have to dash up them citizenship or dash up them parliamentary career. Let's see how this debate progress. Now that there's more mud in the water, fish can they swim, but because the water so muddy, you not see them. But Mr. Wildman has thrown a net into the muddy water. And when net come up, you may just be able to see fishes where you never know say a swim in the muddy water. He wants to have a republic first, then work on the Constitution. Hey, Pedro, I've never seen something so backwards. The phase by phase, because the phase by phase mean, Pedro, let's go republic, and then we will work on the Constitution piece by piece. Piece by piece, Constitution. Lord, I'm sorry for Jamaicans, because you see the fact that we just sit down and accept and don't push back on nothing. This is why you can't have somebody like Andrew Holness turn him back on the constitutional review. Don't look like he want to have the consensus with the country unless the country just sign him off for one. Oh, him want one. Oh, you don't see the danger, Jamaica people. Oh, you don't see it because none of hope on us still don't see about the 5 times where the Constitutional Court ruled against him, and there's more ruling pending. Patricia Huntington. And there's more ruling pending against this very Prime Minister, JP, in relation to violating your fundamental rights, your constitutional and legislative process. Holy panel still don't say that. Remember Greenblows say, a Mark Golding, Karsar, they suffer the hard life where Greenblows are meet. I become Mark Golding now and step down. Why the poor woman there they suffer? And at them you something Andrew Bank Pan. Andrew Bank Pan the dunceness. Andrew Bank Pan the arrogance. Andrew Bank Pan the illiteracy. Andrew Bank Pan the silence of you the people. Andrew Bank Pan the disengagement. Andrew Bank Pan creating war in the People's National Party in order to keep him where he is. Andrew is invested in buying the country if he can get it for him playpen. Because you the people, you the tin mackerel and dumpling people, you the chicken back and white rice people, you the big Jill, not the big Jill, what the one server rum, I wait name, what the one server rum be, the one chatter rum people, flasser rum people, shop corner people, where politicians come meet on our shop place and drunk on walk off with a vote and stick 2 fingers upon Uno are the problem. Uno defies political followers. Uno blind eye political followers. Uno Roman boom politics. Uno are the problem. Shot glass politics. Uno are the problem. Uno willing to sell out cheap. Special politics. Uno are the problem. Uno sell out. Uno vote. But look here. You see Uno, the lazy, half-duns, angered because Uno refuse to get involved. One, where they not get involved because none of them know better than Pedro. Uno help create a situation here too. Because 60% town say, me not get involved. Government, the majority of Jamaicans say they not get involved. Government have lesser of with it deal with. Government have lesser of with it think about when it comes to rising up and pushing back against government tyranny, failed policy, and bad management. The problem of Jamaica is not created by our politicians only. And we choose them, we put them there. And if we just put them there and walk well left them there, put down a baby and put down a plate of food in front of the baby and walk away and say, when you come back, and a be a mess all over the floor. Go on. And the whole of we mash up Jamaica, and the whole of we pay for corruption, and the whole of we bribe police, and the whole of we bribe nurse, and the whole of we bribe teacher to give we pick them good grade where they don't have. And we turn with children them violent. With children them we walk and stab one another in a school and we them learn it from. With children them we walk and brawl in public and we them learn it from in the home and in the community and in the family. It not drop out of sky. We are going to Jamaica not drop out of sky. It's a perpetual. Thank you very much, Joan Brown. We are going to Jamaica is a perpetual behavior that is increasing itself with time. So, you walk and blame government and Marie McFarlane. Walk and blame government. Sit down and wait on government, Jamaica people, to fix on a problem. And I can guarantee you don't have nowhere to go. Sit down and wait. The government, that's how we done. 60, 70 years are the same thing. And we still have hope so they're going to fix it as we backwards. As we come from around a back road and zinc fence. That I know we can't turn up and cursing and people over the zinc fence and say it's not going to happen until we come from behind the zinc fence and get involved and sort the problem out. Every year in Jamaica, our problem gets worse. Every election cycle in Jamaica, our voter turnout gets lower. Ubuntu Wagwan. So why then you don't think the situation is going to get worse, sir? If year in, year out, we decide we're not going to engage in this thing at all. We're just going to live hand to mouth and just work with the thing. So don't complain. Half a way going in Jamaica, the Jamaica people's fault. Half of the problem in Jamaica created by Jamaica people. The church them will get involved in the money laundering with scammers. The mama them will spend scamming money. The mama them will wash blood clothes. The girlfriend them, the family them, the community people them will say, "Are them man there? I make we eat food. Are them man there? I make things go on for we." But more them man they do things for uno and make things go on for uno have to hand over uno pick me to them criminal regime to continue them criminal regime. Because when a bad man I make the community name food, a young boy in the community can't say them now carry bad man gun and walk with bad man bullet. I go drop off bad man thing down. Yes, so. Because a bad man, I'm a name food. Continue. Continue and think say it will get better. Are we done it? Good morning. Are we create with mayhem? And either we are going to live with that backside, or all of us I go get, I'm at me telling a sin to one, don't make me write this wrath this morning. Talk about in a sweet, sweet Jamaica. On a sweet, sweet Jamaica, when you don't have beach figure sit down pan. Stop talk about in a sweet, sweet Jamaica. But when you still don't get on a land now on a mule. Stop talk about sweet, sweet Jamaica. When the white slave master still own, him still walk and make on a friend them sell it after the indentures workers them. When the white man they hand over him constitution and in independent Jamaica gone. Who did the white man hand over the business community of Jamaica to now backside hold for? Don't make us start this morning, you know. Up until today, the economy of Jamaica is held by white, Indian, and Chinese and Jewish. And when I come talk about fill with Jamaica, sweet, come like the whole of we got school with Nesta, you know. Come like the whole of we in Nesta got school. Stop talk about on a sweet this. Stop talk about on a my this if you can't get up and defend it. Because white people, Chinese people, and Indian people have more rights in it more, you know, because we black people in Jamaica don't have economics rights there. And where there is no economic power, you are powerless in all areas. Mark my word. So no stop talking about on a sweet Jamaica. You don't own nothing there. The piece of land one I live on and I pay tax, and the Chinese them come and I pay no tax. Don't make me go loose. Can't on a sweet Jamaica. Now left here this morning. Hold on, so one get up and run. If this current regime have it their way, holy pound, I go soon one get up and run. So when I talk about on a sweet Jamaica, one of you have Pride Noreen Dennison. How you do? Yvonne Riley. When I talk about on a sweet Jamaica, there ought to be a pride that come with one to standing up and protect and defend your sweet Jamaica. It's not just sweet when music I play. And that this track, you know, the whole of music and the dancing and the skin out and roll over upon head top and them something there. And after on a sober on a don't remember say one private investor just run off with hundreds of acres on the land on the rights, put top of it down, wake up tomorrow morning, the beach, the private, and a damn fool. Anyway, thank you all very much for being here this Sunday. Sharon Bernard, how are you? On the global television. Remember, you can support this platform. You can like, share, subscribe, super chat, super sticker, super thanks, message. Anywhere you want to support the platform, but we enforce, we like and share. We love, we like and share. Huh? We love, we like and share, so we enforce, we like and share. And anyone on us, Mr. Wildman, just tap him on his shoulder and say, sir, you can't leave with so this, you can't leave with just so. Come back, go, do something. But that torment and the confusion where you left, come here, watch the comment last night over Mr. Rattigan, you know, and even the people them who want to ask question Mr. Thingy, they were confused as to what question to ask because you were so forthright, correct, and dominant in your argument last night, which I don't think Mr. Wildman have the correct standing. Because your standing, if I'm correct, Joe Jaya 1, 2, 3, Wagwan, a long time, I not see him. We need to take the extreme drinking seriously. May I tell you, if your argument is to hold water, how you do, Dolphin? If your argument hold water, then believe you me, the confusion only served by getting worse. But the passport argument bringing in the passport, bringing in the renewal of a passport into the conversation, for me, wasn't the best argument. Check out if fire with the fit to at Pika. Where that information is coming out, hold on, let me see. Andrew Witter, Chief Executive of Pika. Andrew Witter, Chief Executive of Pika. May I look, but me not see anything. Type in Andrew Witter resign and see if nothing come up. Not see anything. Not see anything, but if if anything come up, it will let me quickly run through the Gleaner and see if anything from them is in there. Passport privacy and confidence, technology minister. I got one thing. Look at just quickly read one something will come out. When the lawyer Darrell Vaz one article, even though I'm not interested to read anything labor right. Let me quickly see what the lawyer article here about. Because the papers, not the mainstream media, they're not asking the right question. Passport privacy confidence. Technology Minister Darrell Vaz, revelation of Mark Golden travel document, again brings to the forefront question of the level of personal privacy public officials should legitimately expect to enjoy, as well as potential of people with power to abuse their access to citizen private information. For the avoidance of doubt, this newspaper makes no claim and does not intend to imply that Mr. Vaz did any such thing. We are nevertheless surprised at the seeming lack of curiosity of the new information Dana Dixon about, I think they leave out the curiosity of the new information. Dana Dixon Smith, they leave out one word, I think, about this issue, other than unquestioning acceptance of Mr. Vaz's explanation of how he came in possession of golden information, especially in context to the recent promulgation of the Data Protection Act and the government wishes to have public confidence. So the Gleaner seems to be kind of surprised by how she unquestionable accept Darrell Vaz's argument that he got it from a member of the People's National Party. And remember, she goes on to elaborate why Darrell Vaz thought as to that where it was said there nothing is no secret, then she sought to give clarity to that. I think he means when you're a public official and blah, 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 somebody knows something about you and will Tony Tall, how are you? So We know say the new line in the new quarters. Indeed, another noble and surprising takeaway from the imbroglio, or however the word is pronounced. Let me look what I mean quickly, the people. I hate to read past word. I don't know what I mean. They don't give me a definition. Sorry, but anyway, never mind. If any question have been directed to Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency PICA on the matter, it has been asked to account for the leak, and neither surprisingly has the Office of the Information Commission been called upon by the opposition to conduct an investigation. The gleaner, of course, start on the premise that people who hold or aspire to high office ought to not expect and shouldn't be entitled to the same level of privacy afforded to citizens over those lives and collective resources they exercise power over. That argument is true that politicians per se and public officials cannot expect to have the level of privacy that us, the private citizen, have, because we're not in a public duty, we're not in a public office, we're not taking decision that affects the nation. So thereby, there's a level of public scrutiny that have to be applied to our political figures. And a lot that the public is of public interest, what you would think is private life that we're entitled to know. But when it comes to leaking of information personal to the person without there's a violation or there's a request for, and you purely did it for the purpose of political smearing and political expediency, then that's where the violation really stands out tall, because it wasn't on a need to know basis. It was for political smearing and for political point scoring. Which is why we should, we hold to the we hold and often repeat the maxim of the late Anguillian Antiguan lawyer Bernice Lake declared several years ago at the conference in Jamaica on the reform of the Union of Defamation Laws. When he threw his hat in the national arena, the politicians does so on the basis of an implied promise to promote, protect free speech and the social interest of honest, open, and accountable governance. Miss Lake says, what is this writing? Miss Lake says, he does so with the concomitant subordination of the right of privacy. Upon the assumption of office, he makes that promise expressively. On that basis, the fact that Mr. Golden, the president of the People's National Party and leader of the opposition, and the prime ministerial aspirant, Let me read over this paragraph. On that basis, the fact that Mr. Golden, the president of the People's National Party and leader of the opposition, and the prime ministerial aspirant had the fact that he first applied for a Jamaican passport as was released by Mr. Vaz at the age of 46. And after he became a minister of government, is information in which voters have a legitimate interest, as should be the case with the income, asset, liability of everyone who sits in Parliament. In that regard, we in the normal course of things would have no qualms with Vaz disclosure, except that Mr. Vaz is in a unique and in many aspects privileged position. Until a year ago, when Dr. Dana Morris Dixon was made minister with responsibility for digital transformation, Mr. Vaz was in charge of putting in place the arrangement to support the Data Protection Act, the legislation that protects private information held by institutions, including those of government and on individual. Against that backdrop, he even more than most other members of political executive bear an obligation to respect the requirement of the Data Protection Act. Of course, Mr. Vaz has reported that he received the information about Mr. Golden's passport not by abusing his ministerial privilege, but from source from deep within Mr. Golden's party. That is entirely possible. After all, there are likely to be still people in the PNP who would like to relish and embarrassing the opposition leader. But it was an error and a breach of fundamental principles for dealing with such issue that having accepted Mr. Vaz's declared source of information, Miss Dana Morris Dixon apparently felt that ought to be the end of the matter and nothing more, which the country does not agree. Brittany L., Elaine Campbell, Damien Stewart. Stewart, how are you? Well, when is the end of the matter? It would have been acceptable for Dr. Dana Morris Dixon to make clear that as Minister of Information and Digital Transformation, her primary role is to establish policies and to monitor their implementation. Day-to-day management is the responsibility of specific agencies, but she would also have been expected to demand that government agencies covered by the Data Protection Act play by the rules. With respect to information about Mr. Golden's passport and travel document generally, you can't double up the thing. Passport and travel document are the same thing. So you can say passport and travel document. Say passport and visa. Visa are not travel document. And okay, Mark Golden have a British passport, he's entitled to use it. If Mark Golden apply for a British visa in his Jamaican passport, then Mr. Wildman could interpret that as Mr. Golden's passport had expired and his British passport have expired because if not expired, if you travel in a Britain for 2 years with a valid passport, you don't have the right to just automatic entry. You have to go through what is called a resettlement application. British citizens are not. British birth are not. You just don't left the country always observing in a circle. Once you're out of the country for more than 2 years, you have to do that reapplication. So if he wants to use his apply for his Jamaica passport and apply for a visa, he's entitled to do so. That's what dual citizenship means. He's not living in Britain, him have a British citizenship, but him don't live there. Thereby, if him don't travel within Britain upon that document for 2 years, even if the document is valid, him still have to go through that re-establish a resettlement process. Resettlement, I think it's called. But should I continue through this article? No make no sense anyway. I don't know what that woman they say already and the gleaner with for them narrative. But I guess I get the gist of where them going with the argument. In my view, what Dr. Morris Dixon should really be asking for is an investigation as to how the leader of the opposition information get into Darrell Vars's hand. Darrell Vars needs to tell us which member of the People's National Party deep into Mark Golden camp that gave him that information. Otherwise, we just see it as lies and political smearing to cover Darrell Vars' breaches of the Data Protection Act. Them can't have it just for them way. Uno can't just create it how uno want it. But anyway, you know, Michelin gone already. How long? See ya? 2 hours. 2 hours. Me there. 2 hours. Thank you all for being here this morning. Hot off the press. Thank you. Thank you, Hot off the press. Hot off the press and Joan Brown has super chatted us this morning. Thank you very, very much. We appreciate your support to the program. If you have not yet subscribed to the Global Television Group, please do subscribe and turn your notification bell on. If you are a subscriber, also continue to share the Global Television Group to everyone out there, and to those on the X, to those on the Producer Wayne Global TV, to those on Global TV Studios, and to those on GTV Group. Thank you all very much for being here with us this morning. We appreciate your support. Thank you all. And I don't know what I'm going for later. If I not sooner later, I don't know. I will sooner tomorrow. I feel like the oldies for goodies tonight. So, I don't know what I'm going yet. But if we're run out, on our way. And thank you to all my moderators. Thank you to all my platform membership holders. Your support is very much appreciated. Thank you all Good afternoon. Patrick Godfrey from Global Television. See you all later.